And remind yourself, we have the most worshipful Grand Master here with a pen and paper. The sessions are being recorded, and we ask that you would keep yourself mute. Use the chat window if anything comes up during the presentation. So feel free to load a question up there, or we will have a Q&A section at the end. We ask that you allow the speakers to have 20 to 25 minutes of presentation time. At that point, we will turn it over to you. There will be a small poll that you will be asked to take at the end. We will share the results of that. So please fill that out before leaving. And keep in mind that these videos that are being recorded are available through our Grand Lodge website. You will find that they are a private sector YouTube video and very, very easy to get to. And Grand Lodge has been doing a great job of making that and all of the webinars available to you. Speaking of those webinars, tonight we have the Senior Warden. We will finish the Build a Better Beehive program with the duties of the Worshipful Master coming up next week. That will be presented by the Most Worshipful Grand Master, Ethan Seabird, and I'm very fortunate to work with him in that presentation. We will then move into some Masonic research given by Most Worshipful Terry Tilton, and some safe lodge meeting practices coming up for February. You'll see that we are booking out nicely here, and we'll keep these on a Wednesday evening presentation until further notice. This information can be found, and you can register by going to the Grand Lodge website and clicking on the webinars. Brothers, we have the Show and Tell Challenge. That has been an initiative that has put out to allow brothers to engage during this 2020 interesting Masonic journey that we're all on. You know, some things to consider as you put together any type of a video content, a poem, or an essay, or some reflection of art is: what is Masonry in Minnesota? What will your life and the legacy say about Freemasonry? And how will you help others find their way to the rewards of our craft? So bythecompass.org challenge has more information, as well as a sneak peek into some examples that you may find of interest. So without further ado, I am going to start the recording and stop my presentation.
All right.
Tony.
Thank you. And if we'll go over to the first slide, we'll get started.
You should be good to go, Tony.
We should be pulling it up. So is the screen up?
Not yet.
Haven't seen it quite yet.
Well, it's for some reason it's not coming up, even though we tried it before.
Have you tried the share button, the green share button again?
Yes.
And then you'll have to double click once you've highlighted it down in the corner. You'll have to click on it again. It'll say share. So you'll highlight the screen you want, and then it'll say share. Then it'll go live.
No, the screens are not on my it's not on my screen. I mean,
Shannon, could you run this slideshow for us?
I can if Tony, I'll allow Tony a minute or two here while I dig into it. I'm going to jump into the last email exchange we had, Tony.
yeah, I mean, I have it up, but it's not coming up when I hit share screen. Oh, there it is. Let me try this.
Hey, there we go.
There we are.
I like that.
There we are. Well, good evening, brothers. I'm Larry Lyman. I'm past master of the Winona Lodge 18 down here in Winona, Minnesota. And I'd like to welcome you to our presentation this evening on the Senior Warden. You'll notice the wheel to your left ties the duties of the Senior Warden to the concept of harmony within the lodge. Particularly truth, tolerance, brotherhood, ritual, and charity are the primary focal points for the Senior Warden, we believe. And I think you'll find the presentation this evening interesting. Hopefully you'll find ways to tie this to your own situation as you move forward through the chairs. And with that, I'd like to ask Right Worshipful Brother Tony Crowell to describe the primary duties of the Senior Warden to us, if you would, sir.
Well, first of all, welcome, brothers. I hope you'll enjoy the presentation tonight. I don't think that Larry and I have found anything that's unique or secret, but what we hope to do is remind you of some of the truths that we all know, and that if you're planning or occupying the West, hopefully these are some things that will pave the way to a successful term. So the duties of a senior warden are kind of described generally in our opening ceremony. Assisting the worshipful master in opening and closing his lodge, paying the crafter wages that ought be due, and to see that none go away dissatisfied. What does that mean? Well, assisting the worshipful master in opening and closing his lodge is, straight out of our ritual, but it has a more important meaning as senior warden. As a senior warden, as with any officer, but particularly the senior warden, you want to be able to demonstrate to the lodge that you're prepared to lead that lodge in the future. And what is the best way that you can do it is to show the lodge that you can do the work, that you're serious about it. Nobody follows a comedian in the battle. People follow leaders in the battle. And you want to be well-liked and accepted among your brothers, but you also, at the point you become senior warden, want to show them that you're serious about the work and leading the lodge. The best way to do that is to be serious about your ritual work. Then the other 2 points, pay the crafter wages and to see that no one go away dissatisfied. I thought for a long time, what exactly does that mean? And the best I can think that we're aiming at is the senior warden has a particularly valuable role in maintaining harmony in the lodge, to make sure that the brothers are happy and that they're enjoying the lodge experience. As worshipful master, as any of you know who have served in the East, you're busy. You have lots of things going on. But as senior warden, you have that unique ability to step back and kind of take a survey of the lodge. And I think one of the most important tasks of the senior warden is just to gauge the health of the lodge and advise the worshipful master how it's going within the lodge. There's also additional duties, and these vary by lodge. But in general, as senior warden, you're going to be asked to serve as a master on either the entered apprentice or fellow craft. In my lodge, you preside on the entered apprentice. The junior warden presides on the fellow craft. I know some lodges are opposite. That serves a very important role. That's your tryout in controlling and running a lodge. And so as you come into the senior warden position or the junior warden position, it's important that you demonstrate to the lodge that you can lead them, that you can open a meeting, that you can perform the work. Maybe more importantly, a senior warden is really in charge of the mentorship program and the ritual instruction for the candidates. Again, this can vary by lodge, but in general, senior wardens should be assuring that those new master masons or new fellow crafts or new entered apprentices are mentored, that the Grand Lodge mentoring program is being utilized, and that they're building those new members into successful masons in your lodge. Keeping in mind that these brothers may be your officers next year, they may be your committee chairman or workers next year, and they're not only going to do that if they're mentored properly and taken care of. Another key part of being a senior warden is to attend the required Grand Lodge communications, both the annual communications, schools of instructions, area conferences. We've all seen senior wardens and junior wardens, for that matter, who don't attend anything but show up as master and say, follow me in the battle, follow me during this year. And if you don't show up along the way and do your work along the way, you're not going to succeed as a master. So as senior warden, you want to be particularly attuned to what Grand Lodge functions are out there and attend them. And then finally, to some extent, you'll want to be contributing to the lodge publications and newsletters. After all, it will be to you very important next year that you'll be able to lead them through those processes. So Shannon, are you sending me a message that it's not switching?
It seems to be switching, Tony. You're doing well.
All right.
And I see that we have a little reminder for folks here. Let's not forget to plan, because poor planning leads to poor results. People don't plan to fail, they fail the plan, as they say. If we can go to the next slide, we'll talk about a key concept for the senior warden. And that's to define your vision for the lodge. What are your goals and objectives? Hopefully you've already started thinking about that last year. Step one, don't forget to create a calendar. Looking at the Grand Lodge events that are coming up for the year, stick those in there right away. Other bodies, you may have appendant bodies such as the Eastern Star, the York Rite, the Shrine, the Scottish Rite, other bodies that you would want to be represented in, and you certainly wouldn't want to miss their events. Don't forget your fundraising, your membership drives. And what are your hopes, your goals for your own lodge the year that you're sitting in the East? If you can start jotting those down and defining your vision for where you see the lodge, you're going to have a little bit more success as we move forward. And now, Right Worshipful Tony will explain how to develop that and who to ask for help. I'll step back.
Defining your vision is key for the lodge. In my mind, there are two types of men going in as master, and therefore have serving as senior warden. There are those who just want to get through and be past master, and there are those who want to really lead the lodge and have a vision as to what they want to accomplish. And as Larry said, you must have a calendar to start with, but it's more than just writing down events on a piece of paper. It's getting your members involved, how to make your vision become the vision of the lodge. And that's an important aspect. And to do that, you as senior warden can start to work with your officers. You can start to target your project chairman. Now you got to do this carefully because you're not the master. But if you have a good relationship with your master and it's appropriate time of year, you can start to identify people who might work in those capacities. Same with the degree team members. You've got to figure out who does the work in your lodge and what do they want. The stories of masters doing what they want and not what the lodge wants are rampant. There's a master or a senior warden who announced that he intended to hold his ritual practices on Saturdays, and most of the lodge had cabins up north, and that didn't go over very well. So you want to be sensible. You want to be attuned to what the feeling of the lodge is as you do this. Don't forget the new members that you are mentoring, because they will be a source of some of the most valuable information that you'll get. The lodges, the existing members have already found what they want, most likely in the lodge. They like coming on Wednesday nights or Monday nights and having, cookies and coffee. But the new members, they may have another idea of what Masonry is. And you want to make sure that you consider that in developing your vision for the lodge. Then finally, I can't stress enough, just dealing with the other bodies, particularly those that meet in your building. Their vision is important because you, as ultimately the master of the lodge, but as senior warden when you're planning, you need to understand what they're doing and where they are, and maybe you can work together. So those are important aspects in making your vision the vision of the lodge. The next key issue is networking, because no man stands alone. No senior warden stands alone either. And it's too late to really network once you're a master of the lodge. The key time to do that is when you're the senior warden. And there are various constituencies that you want to address. For example, past masters. We all know that past masters have all the answers to all the questions, and some answers not even asked. But if you don't reach out as senior warden to the past masters and find out what they're interested in, what their concerns are, how they can help you, you're missing the boat. Past masters can provide you with valuable help. And more importantly, you may have some rules for the past masters that you're going to ask them to follow, tradition prevailing. And it's good to get that out on the table and to work with them right now. I remember lodges where the past masters would constantly be correcting ritual from the sidelines. And a senior warden, when he's elected, made it very clear, it's not going to happen. Please don't do that. Same with appendant bodies. You want to find out what they're doing, particularly those in your building. It's important for scheduling. It's important out of respect for each other. The lodge will take precedence. The Grand Lodge will take precedence over that. But you don't want to be scheduling your fellowcraft degree on the same night the Eastern Star want to hold their spaghetti dinner. You want to work and coordinate, networking. Same with masters and wardens. I mean, depending on where you are, you may want to consider what other lodges similarly situated are doing. You can only do that by reaching out and networking with them. Likewise with schools of instruction. Boy, wouldn't it be nice to schedule your fellowcraft degree after you had a school of instruction on the fellowcraft degree? You can utilize those, even offer to host those as a way of training your officers. Other lodges, as I mentioned, there's things that you can do in working together. There's economies of scale. And I guess the moral of the story is that reach out beyond your little lodge and your little calendar and consider the more global view on it. So one of the things we talked about at the beginning is providing for harmony in the lodge. I look at the role of a senior warden as the right-hand man of the master. He, more than any other person in that lodge, has the ability to observe the good works of the brothers. The master's got lots of things on his plate. He's got budgets, he's got degree work. The senior warden has the ability to kind of stand back and observe others' good works and make sure that they're recognized. And your job as a senior warden is to advise the worshipful master that you might have a brother who's really doing good work, and maybe the master can, give him his strokes or recognize him. It also provides good input as to identifying key brothers who might be valuable as you proceed through the chairs. The master has a right to do Hiram Awards and those type of things, but you can certainly suggest a senior warden. You can identify a senior warden, and that has a corollary benefit. Those key brothers, while they might not be recognized in the year that you're in the West, might be appropriate to recognize when you're in the East. And that's an important task. And you just can't step into the East and then look for the most valuable Mason or the person for the Hiram Award. It should be a body of work. And I think the time that you have the best ability to observe that is when you're in the West. You're not as busy, you're not as focused on the East.
Now, as we look at trying to be ready for the East, there's other information you want to at least be reviewing as senior warden. Some things might be the lodge history and the traditions. You certainly want to be somewhat knowledgeable of your lodge. You're the person that anyone new to the area might turn to. As senior warden, the master will often ask you to visit with a visitor about your lodge. So, what year was your lodge founded? You have a cornerstone story? Are there significant lodge events? For example, in the Winona Lodge, we moved from a building of long standing, we had been in for 100 years, and moved to a new building that we had purchased, gutted, totally renovated. And now we've been in there about 3 years. That's a big deal. We did that on St. John's Day, was the day that we moved in. So when we are thinking about our calendar, obviously that's one of the lodge events that we want to think on. Do your members have significant anniversaries? Obviously, is now called Grandview, is something that's new to me. I'm sure it's new to a lot of the older guys. The younger guys are certainly going to be comfortable with it, because I'm getting comfortable with it. That you can look at very quickly and see member anniversaries. You have someone coming up on a 25th anniversary or a 10th year anniversary, someone who maybe has been coming to meetings, but they've been kind of laid back. They haven't said a lot. Can you imagine how they're going to feel if they're presented with a simple certificate saying congratulations on 10 years of faithful service to your lodge? Faithful service might come in the form of simply coming to the meetings every month and showing up for social events. That may spur that person to step into the line. You don't know. What's the financial history of your facility and your lodge? Are you in good shape? Can you plan to do something to make that even better for future uh, Masons who will be coming down the road? And what are your community contributions? A couple years ago, our senior warden came to the master and said, you know, the Red Cross needs a place to hold a blood drive. From that conversation, we now have a very close relationship in our lodge with the Red Cross. They hold 4 blood drives a year, and are some of the more successful blood drives they have. Those are just some ideas on other information you might want to be aware of. One of the resources as well that you might want to always think on is the Minnesota Mason. The year 2019 saw the leadership committee spending the entire year on every article or every issue of the Minnesota Mason, placing an article about the senior warden. And you can go to the archives and find those articles, and you may find them useful as you're developing your year. So, right worshipful, what are the attributes that closely identify with the senior warden? I know we had mentioned in the beginning, and if you would cover them again for us, we'd sure appreciate it.
Well, the attributes are described generally on the wheel that we have in front of us. I think that a good senior warden needs to display certain characteristics. He needs to be loyal to the master. He is not the master. He can't be seen as chomping at the bit to become master, but he's got to tell the truth. He's got to be there for the master. He's got to present himself to the lodge as a leader. And that may mean dressing appropriately. That means acting appropriately. That means attending things appropriately. You need to display the tenets of masonry, the truth, the tolerance, the brotherhood, the fellowship. But as you move into positions of increasing responsibility in the lodge, you'll find yourself needing to do things like showing the lodge that you're fiscally responsible, showing the lodge you can perform the work, showing the lodge that you can be articulate and serious. I mentioned before, you want people to follow you, but they're not going to follow you unless you do the work. The ritual we've talked about, you need to be proficient in the ritual. Now, not all of us are good ritualists, but all of us can show that we're serious about it. You can tell the ritualist who struggles for words, but knows the work, and those who you know that just never cracked the book and never studied. And you want to be the person who studied and made the effort. And you got to practice the charity in the lodge and out of the lodge. It's not just about appearances when you show up. It's about being truly concerned about your brothers and being able to lead them. So those type of characteristics, you're not the master, but you're going to be. You're going to be viewed, especially in the second half of your year, as the person who's going to take over. And if you wait until that time to start to display these attributes, in my opinion, it's too late. You need to start junior warden, and certainly by the time you're installed as senior warden, show the lodge that you're ready to assume the mantle of membership, of leadership. There are lots of resources, and we could spend all day on going through the resources, but these are just some of them. And Larry mentioned some of them as well. The Grand Lodge website has undergone substantial changes and improvements, and we're continually trying to improve it as well. So use that as a resource. Use the Grandview. Grandview is just an amazing source of information about your brothers. And as you get up in leadership positions, it is just a tremendous resource. And again, we have the member resources, the Masters and Wardens Handbook. I can't stress enough the LRP. And we can debate whether the LRP, the Lodge Recognition Program, is a competition, a qualification, doesn't matter. What it is important for you as senior warden is to realize that some of the things that are valued within the LRP is really just a blueprint for a successful term as master. And if you're a senior warden and you're not examining those resources and considering how they might affect a year as master, you're missing a great source of information as to what a good lodge does. So there are many more resources. There's lots of generic leaders resources, but all of them are out there and available to everyone. I think that pretty much sums it up, Larry. On my half, I'd like to just thank everybody for attending.
And on my half, I would also like to thank people for attending. I'll tell you, if you don't take anything else away from our presentation tonight, remember this: the senior warden helps people maintain harmony and pays the craft the wages if what you do. And those wages oftentimes are simply a pat on the back, a nod to let the person know that what they're doing is worthwhile and recognized, and a kind whisper in the master's ear when it's appropriate can go a long way. Have fun with the position, prepare for the work to come, and enjoy your years in the chairs, whether you're junior warden, senior warden, master, or simply the Tyler. Have a good time. I've enjoyed being a part of these presentations, and with that, I'll shut up and ask Right Worshipful if there's any final closing thoughts.
I really don't have any other thoughts than the senior warden, I think, is a linchpin. You're walking that fine line between being the right-hand man of the master and at the same time trying to plan a term that hopefully will be yours the next year. But I think it's the best training, the training by fire. In doing that, just remember, first and foremost, you need to be the right-hand man of the master. You're his eyes and ears among the craft and in keeping harmony within the lodge. Everything else can be done privately, but when you're in lodge assembled, you're the right-hand man of the master and always loyal.
Excellent point. Thank you, Right Worshipful Brother and Worshipful Brother. That was an excellent presentation and a very thorough job of covering the responsibilities as a brother should prepare to wear that title as past master. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the polling. As I stated, we're going to keep the recording going here. I'll launch the polling, and let's go ahead and open up if there's some comments, some feedback, some questions you brothers may have.
Yeah, Tony, this is Don. If I could just offer one comment based on my experience in working with quite a few lodges. One of the things I've seen, especially recently, is that, to me, one of the key things Senior Warden also needs to be doing is identifying who's going to be his appointment in the line and who's he going to have as his officers for the coming year, and to be talking to those people. I've seen a number of situations where people just assume, well, the guy was this position, he's just going to continue on and doing it. And that may not be the case. And a lot of times they leave it until the last minute. And to me, I can't emphasize enough the importance of the senior warden to be talking to people about who's going to be in his line and talking to those guys and making sure that everybody's ready to continue on. It's so many issues could be avoided if people just talk to one another.
It reemphasizes the need for officer meetings. If you're having regular officer meetings, a lot of that can be avoided and dealt with in private with your fellow officers.
Yep.
I'd like to extend on that just a little bit. Thanks for bringing that up there, Worship Brother Don. And that's the thing that I think as a senior warden, a junior warden, and a master, you should have some of those conversations around who are those brothers in the lodge that are showing that interest, who are showing the ability to kind of step up, that they're taking it upon themselves to help the lodge become better, and give them small tasks. I look back to some of the things that we had done at our lodge there, and that's what the master was thinking, is how well will this brother perform in this duty? Is he ready to move into the line? So, something to consider. So, great point.
And brothers, if I could give you one suggestion that you may find helpful, that's when you're sitting in the west and you're looking around the lodge and you realize there are some brothers who are coming regularly, and yet they're very quiet, and they don't seem to get involved very much. Oftentimes because they don't know what to do or how to get involved. They'd like to get involved, they just don't want to seem pushy, they don't want to seem arrogant, they don't want to seem to be trying to take charge. So they sit in the sideline. There are 4 words that if I could give you 4 words to help make sure to include those people, those 4 words would be, I need your help. If you have a project where, or you know you're going to have a project, or you'd like to consider having a project, and you're looking ahead to the next year, you don't know if this project will go or not. Maybe if you know those brothers well enough to know their interests, maybe you want to think about trying to develop a project in their field of interest. We have a gentleman in our lodge who is a nationally ranked, was a nationally ranked trap shooter. And I'm talking in the top 10 in the country. What a resource. He hadn't been coming to meetings. I called him one day and said, you know, next year, I'm going to be sitting in the East. And I would love to see if we could start a youth trap seminar, if nothing else. I need your help. I don't know how to shoot trap, but I know you do. Guess who showed up at the next meeting? Just a suggestion. Those 4 words have opened doors for me with people who maybe they wouldn't have gotten involved otherwise. They open a door for you, that's great. But we need your help to make sure that the Minnesota Masons continue to grow and stay strong. And how we need your help is by making sure all your brothers are involved in a positive way. So again, thank you for showing up. I'm kind of humbled to see some of the people that are here, and particularly if I could just say one more thing. Daytonburg is glad, I'm just glad to finally see you. I have seen the name. We actually have Daytonburg live on video. He does exist.
I'm going to just quickly share some of the closing presentations. I encourage you to stick around for further discussion, but just a couple of items here that we like to present to you to let you know what's coming up. Switch over to that. And Right Worshipful Brother Tony, what I was sending over to you was a note to click on that little TV icon in the bottom corner, which would have put you in presentation mode. It still turned out, it was great. It was very good, but just that's what it was. And like Larry said, you're on a roll, so I just let you guys continue rocking and rolling. So brothers, we have some upcoming scheduled items. Please go to the Minnesota Grand Lodge website and click on the webinars. Feel free to look at some of the upcoming events, and you will need to register before you can gain access. That's how we keep them secure as best we can. So that being said, the Build a Better Beehive Worshipful Master will sum up the responsibilities as we give you a kind of a sneak peek, or a, like Right Worshipful Brother Tony had stated, we could spend hours discussing these responsibilities. So we just wanted to give you a sneak peek and kind of talk about those things that lodges have been doing consistently to grow and become better at what they do in Masonry. Some of the upcoming events here, you'll see we have some great stuff coming forward for you. Philalethes Society with Most Worshipful Terry Tilton, safe practices around the lodge. Worshipful Brother Brian Smith, looks like he's got a great Leo and some more of that geometry application for some of us. So with that, I would just like to thank you for attending. We will keep the recording going for a little bit. If it seems to go away from open discussion, we're going to stop this and then look to cease for the night. So turning it back over to you, brothers.
I like the comment of always being ready. As you're going up through the line, something I encourage people to do is always look ahead. Be ready to move one seat up at least. And as a senior warden, by the time you get to that point, you should have a lot of the degree work, the ritual work, the bylaws, a lot of that understanding, being ready to step in as the master if something were to happen. My year is a perfect example of that as a senior warden. I got 3 months in, and then our master actually got hired in a job in Oklahoma that he needed to move in 1 week. So he had a 1 week notice. And, you know, that was kind of a surprise. So, I mean, you got to be ready at any time.
There have been times when a master has been ill and had to call his senior warden the morning of a meeting to say, I'm sick, it's yours, you know, here's the agenda, and have a good meeting. Let me know how it went. That should not be a surprise to a senior warden. Hopefully you have a good enough relationship with your master so that you guys are always in touch anyways. And you should always be ready to step in if needed.
Terry Tilton, I want to encourage the senior wardens. I don't know how many active Masters Wardens clubs we have in the state anymore, but I think we're becoming increasingly aware of the need to utilize the resources of the lodges and the brothers that are around us. And it seems to me that the master and wardens have a particular responsibility, more especially when I think about ritual work that needs to be done where we may not be able to complete all of your own work with trained individuals, but more especially also the sharing of ideas and resources between the lodges relative to activities or jointly sponsored activities where lodges are close enough to work together. And we simply have seen too many lone wolf sets of officers, too many lone wolf sets of lodges. And we somehow need to redevelop that sense of camaraderie that is beyond, that sees Masonry larger than our local lodge and what is happening in our particular community or our room. I think more especially today than ever before, as our numbers dwindle, we have to learn to depend and connect and reconnect with each other more. And I see that as a particular responsibility of the master and wardens, and just would encourage every officer to consider what are the resources around you and are you familiar with them? Or do you have enough knowledge of them, of the people that are currently in those chairs, in those positions, in the lodges around you, to be able to call upon them or to ask them for assistance, or for them to ask you for assistance? Just a point. I don't want to belabor it, but I think it's very, very important these days.
Most worshipful brother Terry, I'd say that was a point well made, and one I want to take a brief point of personal privilege to say greetings to you from the Hiawatha Valley. Nice to see you. Before I have to ring off here quickly, I want to say thank you to all of you for attending, and certainly to all of you who have worked so hard here on this Beehive series. While if things go well next week, it'll be solely because Shannon Krecklau is involved. So I would encourage you to keep your expectations low, and we'll be able then to knock it out of the park. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you so much for your commitment to the Grand Lodge. I'm sorry I have to leave early here, but enjoy the evening and stick around as long as you can. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Most worshipful. You know, and that's another point I'd like to just kind of express that Tony had brought up earlier, and that was that at Nelson we had something called master's wages, and it was put into the agenda where if a brother was recognized at work for something, he had a big sales, got a big promotion, it was brought up in lodge, so he just got that little extra applaud. and I think all of us like to have that, that moment where we get recognized for stuff. So I would encourage, taking a look at that, and it gave the senior warden a time to stand up and speak in front of the lodge and make sure that brother got his master's wages, as we like to call it. So
Definitely. And in our lodge, the senior warden would advise me if he saw somebody doing something or heard of somebody doing something in the community, or of special note, maybe on a ritual team. And to recognize them, for my year, I was able to buy some coins that weren't too expensive, a couple dollars a piece, I think they were. But I would, in my agenda, I would call on the marshal to escort brother such and so sitting on the sideline to the west of the altar. And I'd have everyone in the lodge stand as I presented this coin to them. Now, the coin was very simple. And it basically said, "I'll never be alone because I always have a brother." And I would hand them that coin. A simple message. But I can guarantee you, those coins let those brothers know, number one, that their lodge appreciated their efforts in every respect. And number two, that we could count on them and we knew it. And it's just, coins may be one way to recognize. Another way might be if you can print a 15-cent certificate that says presented on behalf of this lodge. It doesn't have to be something expensive or extravagant. I know, because I've got a lot of pieces of paper in the other room that I just can't bring myself to throw away. Because at one point somebody said, "You know what, Larry? I think you're worth something," in one way or the other. And there's nothing better that we can do for our brothers than let them know in a positive way that we know their worth. That's paying wages. Just a thought. And no, I'm not sending all you guys a certificate because I don't have all your addresses. But thank you.
How about a coin?
hey, say yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, the next time we meet, it'll be there.
Brothers, I'm
I
gonna
might-
stop the recording here.